What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Console Kids Podcast. This episode, we're going to be talking about pretty exciting information. Now, this is something that I've been wanting to talk about on a special podcast for several weeks, but I had other content, and finally I'm getting to it. So, this is about design changes from Arcade1UP that we should see in 2023. Now, here's the thing. It's kind of like a prediction because, I mean, here's the thing. If Arcade1UP doesn't come out with this, everyone's going to be like, well, Justin was wrong. But, like, even Arcade1UP themselves could announce that they're going to come out with something. Think of the KI Pro. KI Pro was something that was announced early this year, and we still haven't seen it yet, but we've been reassured that we should see it still in 2023. So it's something like nothing is official until it's official, and even then it may not be official. But here's the thing, Arcade1UP this year has gone, John D has gone to a whole bunch of different content creators and said things, basically leaking what their plan is. And if you pay very, very, very close attention, this is something that has already been leaked but has not been fully discussed. So I want to break it down and describe it, get everyone excited, because I think this is coming. And if for some reason it's not in the plans, let's share this video with Arcade1UP and be like, make this the plan. That is, based on the vote today, whether this is something that you would actually want. It's something that I would want. My last episode last Sunday, we were talking all about the XL and the Pro, and the XL versus the Pro. But today, we're not going to be talking about the XL and Pro. We're going to be talking about that 3/4 scale cabinet, the one they've been continuing to iterate on up to this point. That's the design change I think we're going to see. In 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22, we've seen that 3/4 scale model change continuously. To think that they're not going to change it, come on, that's not using good logic. Of course they're going to change the legacy cabinet design, but what is it going to be? And is it going to be what you want? That is the question. So down in the chat, those that are watching live right now, I'd love to give you an opportunity to give your theories of what's going to come out in 2023. Now, this can be based on information that you've already seen of other content creators, and it's just not out yet. So it could be pure speculation on your part. It could be something that it's like a what am I trying to say? Like something more accurate because you put all the pieces together. And I saw Conrad in the audience there just a moment ago, and he asked the question, is Constorm Entertainment, he's all about the different leaks. So put together, Constorm, what you think is going to be coming out in 2023. Hopefully I'll be able to catch that in the chat and read it. So let's jump right into it. I'm going to give you a quick presentation, and afterwards we'll get in the chat and we'll talk about it. How's that sound? Get me ones in the chat if that sounds good. Let's talk about it. So we go through these slides pretty quick. Don't worry, I'm not going to spend an entire hour going through the entire slide. Just have a handful of them. So in 2018, this was the original design of the cabinet. Now, there's a key component in this cabinet. It doesn't have a riser. Do you remember in 2018, it did not come with a riser? It was almost like Arcade1UP didn't even consider selling a cabinet without a riser. That was the original design. It was a $299 purchase, did not come with a riser. But then a lot of people were like, whoa, we want a riser. So they started selling the risers separately. That's what we started to see. So by 2019, you'd see the Street Fighter model was sold, bundled separately. And I made a video on this about a year ago, Arcade1UP, the riser, how it changed everything. And it really did, because instead of the Arcade1UP being just this 3/4 scale cabinet that you had to sit down to play, have a chair that's very low to the ground, it had a riser that you could optionally buy. But you guys remember? It was horrible to find a riser because they were sold separately. In 2018 and 2019, Walmart was basically out of risers. You guys even remember that? Like, you had to purchase the riser separately. I remember going to Walmart and buying the different cabinets that I wanted, and then having to wait until the risers catch up in stock, and then you would have to find them. There was tons of people that were like, I'm not able to get a riser, but eventually I'll be able to get one. And so, but now, the landscape is kind of completely changed, right? It's not that we're hunting for a riser that's sold separately. Instead, the risers are included. So here's just a picture, of 2019, 2020, the type of cabs, and all of them not all of them, but nearly all of the cabinets that you would purchase would come with a riser built in. Now, those in the audience, is that the way you like it? I want to ask that question. Are you the type of person that wants the riser included, or do you want to buy that separately? Should Arcade1Up go back to the old ways where you're basically needing to pay $50 for a generic riser sold separately so they can reduce the cost of their cabinets down to a lower price? Now, I have a theory that when Arcade1Up started selling these cabinets separately, and the riser was also sold separately, the reason why they were always out of stock on the riser is, I'll give you an example. They would sell 10,000 Arcade1Up cabinets, let's say, but then they would only make 5,000 risers. At some point, they made a guess. They're like, well, not everyone's going to want a riser, so maybe they did 50-50, or maybe they did 70-30, or whatever the equation is, right? 70% of the cabinets would have a riser. Whatever that number was, they were wrong. And I would guess to say that for every 10,000 cabinets, 9,000 cabinets needed a riser, right? We're not talking about 99%. We're talking about the majority, close to 100% people actually want that riser. Now, I've seen some posts on Facebook where there's a handful of people that have an entire arcade room with no riser. But that's pretty seldom, and if you're like that, I'm not trying to bring you down in anything. I've also noticed in previous podcasts where I talked to people, those people were very tall. It's almost like if you're very tall, like 6'4" or 6'5", you almost need to play the cabinet sitting down because it's not very comfortable to play the cabinet at the height with the riser. But if you sit down, it works for you. But that's not an average height in the United States, right? An average height in the United States, and it's different in every country, right? It's like 5'8", 5'9", 5'10" for a man, right? And so maybe Arcade1Up targeted incorrectly, but at this point, here's the thing. At this point, Arcade1Up mostly sells cabinets with a riser included, and that's a key point to the logic about all of this entire thing. So go to the next one. Keep in mind, Walmart does sell an option still for about $315 usually, and now this latest generation is about $379. The Yoga Flame edition at $379 is no riser included, and that's to meet that demographic of the people that are, maybe it's a less expensive unit is what they're really going for. Some people in the community call it the peasant version. Maybe not the greatest way to describe the cabinet. But up till the beginning of 2018 till now, there's always been this no riser option, but just on their big titles, right? Not every cabinet would come to that. And then this year we saw the XL. Do you see where I'm going with this? The 2022 XL model was the first cabinet made by Arcade1Up where there was no riser, but the height was very tall. This is like a very tall cabinet, so it's all built in, right? And then we have the 2022 Pro cabinet is also no riser, but it's very, very tall. And we almost need a name for this, right? Like, what do you call this? If you call it riserless, does that mean a cab that doesn't come with a riser? Or do you mean a cab that doesn't need a riser? So there needs to be a good distinction for that. And that's what I think is going to be coming out in 2023. It's the riserless 3/4 scale cabinet, if you will. I don't know what they're going to call it. Is it the XL Mini? Is it the XL Lite? Because this is basically I'll give you a comparison of what I'm talking about. Now, this has been said in chats, in conversations with multiple employees from Arcade1Up talking about a cabinet without a riser. But they've already done cabinets without a riser. So what are they talking about? They're talking about the XL, and they're talking about the new design cabinet that doesn't have a riser. It doesn't need a riser. It's like the need of the riser is not there. So what I'm talking about is possibly 2018 to 2023. That's it. Rest in peace, riser. We're done with the risers. You don't need them anymore because the cabinet is going to look like this. Now, what exactly does this mean? It's an interesting thing. if you compare the 2022 Mortal Kombat edition on the left and then the mock that I made on the right. Now, this is not an official mock. This is just something that I put in Photoshop to give you an example of what the 2023 Legacy Edition would look like. It would basically inherit all of the beauty of the cabinet on the left. Hopefully it comes with a BOE monitor. We've heard they're not going to go back to those other manufacturers. They're going to try really hard to stay with that BOE monitor. And then this is just a guess on the Mortal Kombat 2. You know, probably they'd go back to the Mortal Kombat 2 artwork. And if you look closely, what I did was I stretched the robe at the bottom. The point is, I don't know if it'll look exactly like that, but when you have a cabinet that doesn't need a riser, you can put the artwork all the way from the top at the bottom, in the bottom. Now, let me make it clear. This cabinet that I'm showing will not fit in the 48-inch box if the side panels are solid. So there will have to be a seam at some point, and that's just like the XL cabinet. If you look very closely on the XL cabinet, there is a seam right here. And so we'll probably see that seam as well. Now, why would Arcade1up do this? Well, it's because they want to save money. This is actually a way cheaper design. Now, think about it. When you build an Arcade1up cabinet, you have to first assemble the riser. There's actually extra wood to be able to support the riser, right? You won't need that extra wood. Even the extra support that's needed to have it nice and clean, I think will be less wood in the end. But here's an interesting thing to think about it. If you take a look at this cabinet design, the big question is, if 2023 they come out with an Arcade1up cabinet that doesn't need a riser, what's going to be the width and dimensions of the cabinet? Now, what I would hope is it inherits the size of the riser. Now, this is hard to explain, but while we're doing that, I'm going to ask the community for a poll. I'd like to get what you think on this matter. Let's see if I can get this going here. I'll need a second because it says my... Okay. I ran out of... I'm trying to type in Legacy, and I'm running out of room here. Let's see. I'll just have to make built in a single word. Okay, so ask the community. There's a poll that is going out there. It says, what would you buy? And it shows all the options. An XL, a 2023 Legacy riser built in, and then it gives no changes, optional riser. You're saying you want it to stay the same, or you would only buy a Pro. You're like, forget all these 3/4 scale. I'd love all of you to make that vote. As many people that are in the chat, please press the button, and we'll talk about it in just a second so we can analyze whether this is something that you want to do. Keep in mind, it's very possible Arcade1up is watching this right now and going, what the hell is Justin talking about? Leaking information, trying to make it so distinct so everyone knows exactly the plan. They're going to be mad that I'm doing this, but that's okay because your voice possibly could be heard. So here's the thing. What is going to be the size of this cabinet? Is it going to be the size of the cabinet without a riser? Does that make sense? Or is it going to be the size of the base of the riser? You can get just a few more, millimeters of cabinet. And I'm really hoping that the size of it is going to be the size of a riser. Like, extend it just a little bit, make the depth and the width of it just that slightly bigger, and also give a slightly bigger control panel, but it's still 17 inches. Right, so we're still in that 3/4 scale, and just give us a seam. That seam at some point, I mean, great if it'd be solid all the way, but that means the box would have to be like 65 to 70 inches long, and that's just not going to happen. Or maybe they go with the bar top. Basically, the cabinet is a stand, like the very bottom of it is a stand, and the seam, kind of like the Arcade. And that could be an option for them as well. And then I was thinking about that. You could kind of get a variation of the cabinet where it's like a bar top, and they sell that at Walmart. But I don't really think that's going to work, because if you sell a bar top cabinet that's 17-inch monitor, the picture is going to be all weird, like even to illustrate it, like the top of the cabinet, it just wouldn't work. So I don't think they'd do that. I think basically they would say, there's no more risers, and we're no longer selling cabinets without a riser. So that Walmart SKU, that peasant SKU as people call it, would go away. It would completely go away. So I'm not the first one to think of this. In fact, there's been some modders that have made some modifications to it throughout the years. There's one recently that I have to make a shout out to. There's this guy on the Facebook forums. Have you guys seen this? Give a shout out, hit a 1 if you've seen this on Facebook. There's this guy, Tom. And Tom, what he did was he took his Dragon's Lair and he fabricated some extra wood at the bottom so you can make that slim design. See, we don't know what the good term of this is. Like it's a Dragon's Lair slim design or something, where you can see the extra wood that he fabricated to make that riser seamless. And he's not the first to do it, but he's the most recent one to talk about it. And I think it's really cool because you can take a look at the outcome. This next picture here. Look how beautiful that cabinet looks, right? And Dragon's Lair is a perfect one to do this in because the seam, you know, it's all black right in there, right? So Dragon's Lair's picture is like, you know, in that center. It just looks, this is what we could be looking at in 2023 if Arcade1up decides to go with a built-in riser design for the 3/4 scale. And I think this changes the game 100%. Because again, last week on the podcast, we were talking about this, and a lot of people were like frustrated. There was some people that were like, yeah, I totally want to get the XL. I want it bigger. There's some people that were like, I'm going to pay $1,000 for the Pro. I read through all the comments. There's tons of people that are like, I'll pay extra, but not everyone was like that. There's another set of people that are like, I just don't want a riser. And then it reminded me, well, that's coming. It's totally coming. Because when the design people at Arcade1up and Tastemakers and ThinkUp were talking about the future designs of the cabinet, they were not always specifically talking about an XL. They were also talking about a 3/4 scale cabinet with the riser built in. And that's what I think is coming. What do you guys think we'll see in the chat? I'm going to end this poll now. We got 87 votes. If we get any last minute votes, I'll give you another 30 seconds. Based on now you've heard the entire pitch, you can answer the question. If you're there in the chat on your phone, all you got to do, would you buy an XL for $699 to $799 because you want it bigger? That's the question. And what about the 2023? Let me share my screen so you can see exactly what this chat is about. Might be a little more enjoyable. So I'm going to read this out. We're starting to see the numbers come in, and it's kind of split, right? We're going to end the poll now. 2023, they want the riser built in for $499, $599. It's not in the lead, 34%. 36% in the chat are like, no, I'll pay more for the XL. I want it bigger. 22% are saying no changes, optional riser. 7% want Pro only for that $999 to $1199. So what's interesting is there's only 7% out of all the options that you can pick out of the 4. The Pro was not necessarily, I think the Pro at that price is pricing too many people out. All right, let's take a look at the chat. I ended that now. Let me go through the chat and see if I can scroll through. Let's see. Vic Vicious says design changes are welcome. I hope we get all the Gen 1 to Gen 3 cookie cutter cabs redesigned to match the recent more accurate cab design like Mortal Kombat 30th, Golden Tee 3D. That's pretty cool, Vic Vicious. So if you have some thoughts, go ahead in the chat and I'll get to them. Hopefully I'll be able to catch up with everyone in the chat. I don't think I put slow mode on tonight, so you should be able to chat multiple times. A lot of people requested that. So yeah, he's talking about a re-release of the first gen to Gen 3, but in the newer cab design. He thinks, and that's a pretty good idea, being that it's not necessarily, I wouldn't target that for a replacement. You know, maybe they could throw in some different games, right? I think next year we probably see like 16 games in the Legacy, because we've seen 14, we've seen 12, we've seen 10. And even with the partycades, there's like this, they had like 6 games and like 8 games and like 10 games. Probably we'll get 12 games next year on the partycade. So there's this trend where they just like add a little more games to it. And so we might see that in the re-release, but it's really for the new reach. You know, Arcade1up is reaching a new set of people that are just learning who they are. And so maybe those people want a variation of those original cabinets. Let's see. 19K Fox saying, what's up to people? If you don't know 19K Fox, he does a podcast also every Sunday, and this video should be redirecting to him afterwards. Usually does. Biggie D's, what's up? People are saying hi, what's up? So JJ says, hey all. And I think he was one. JJ was one that was like not really into the XL. But he's saying design changes like waterfall deck, volcano buttons, more lights. See, I think that would be good. Next year, hopefully, we'll see the coin door light up. Now, they promised that on the Pro previously, but I don't think it's going to be limited to the Pro, because details that I got is the Star Wars cabinet that's coming out this year is a re-release, no leaderboards, but they are lighting up the coin door. So it could be possible. I actually, in my video for the Yoga Flame, I put that really early in the video. And I said, I think the new coin door should light up. That should come standard. Hopefully, people agreed with that, because I wouldn't imagine it be that much more expensive for a couple LEDs. I mean, that should just be standard, right? Let's see what else we got. Console fanboy with get rid of that dumb riser. Soxcade says, please, new 80s, new titles, so many left out. Sadly, all they want are fighters. Yeah, definitely this year we got a lot of fighters. I don't know what titles we're going to get next year, but I know there's a lot of people out there that are really interested in 80s titles, and I agree with that. Some of the cabinets that I would be really interested in to get, whether they are a real cabinet or an Arcade1up, are those 80s ones. And the problem with, which I talked about last week, the problem with buying some of these 80s classics that are real, that are like in mint condition, they're super expensive. Like I got a Williams Multicade, and it's great. It's awesome. It's got like a PCB in it that's like from early 2000 that allows you to play a lot of the Williams games. So it's almost canon, if you will. You know, it didn't come out in the last few years, but I paid $1,800 for it. It's in really, really nice shape, but it was really expensive. But I thought, like, if I'm gonna get a Williams, like a real cabinet, like that's the Williams, that's the one. It's really expensive, and so to get that a cabinet like that to more people, imagine if Arcade1up actually came out with a multi-Williams cabinet that looked like what has become a part of the arcade scene in the last 20 years, because the multi-Williams is been out for so long. You know, that PCB design's been, it's almost canon in the arcade world, right? It's almost like they did release the class of 1981, right? That cabinet is not really a cabinet from 1981. It's a re-release, right? But it's been out for so long, it's actually pulls on my heartstrings, because I remember seeing that as an adult when I was older. Basically, when I'd go to a swimming pool area at a hotel, I would see it. In fact, recently I went on vacation. Well, it was about 2 years ago, right before the pandemic, and I saw a class of 1981 still in commission. And then recently I went to a theater, and they have a class of 1981 at that theater. And so Arcade1up re-released that one. So I think they could do that. They could bring back some of the cabinets in that form. All right, let me catch up with the chat here. Capcom Legacy and Midway Legacy, worst designed by Gabriel Gray. Fox is talking about you got to have 60 slides. That's the minimum. For those of you just joined, we're talking about 2023 Arcade1up cabinets not having a riser because the riser is built in. So I'm asking the audience what they think of that. We did a poll earlier, and we're reading chats now to see what you guys think about what you would want from Arcade1up in 2023 when it comes to the design changes. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. Now, here's an interesting thing. The Cincinnati kid says 67 inches is the perfect height for their cabs. That's something I also agree in. Like, you know, the cabinets that I have that are tall, they still came in that box. It was just a little wider, right? I'm pretty sure it's 48 inches by 24 inches and then by 12 to 15 inches. Like, it's just a little wider, right? And so, yeah, it's a little heavier to bring down the stairs. I remember Big Blue, but, you know, all of the Arcade1up cabinets that have all of those parts are pretty heavy, right? And so when it comes to the weight, I don't think going to that 67 inches is pretty nice. And that gets the cabs pretty close to like the play choice that I have. It's around that height, you know. So there's a lot of cabinets that are a lot higher. But I think the Arcade1UP cabinets being the height of like a Donkey Kong cabinet is pretty sweet. Like that's a pretty good height. The Yoga Flame's pretty sweet. I mean, I think maybe they could go a little bit taller, but the control panel, I think, is a pretty comfortable height when it comes to that. Let's see. That's right. I was thinking about it. RGT85, he's someone who doesn't want the Razer, so this is something he would completely hate on. But here's the thing. Like, I wish I could actually get some real data out there. I wonder if Arcade1UP actually has this data. Like, I made the assumption that out of 10,000 people, 9,000 of them want the Razer, right? You know, so do you improve the design to make 9,000 people happy, but 1,000 people are not interested now? But what if that would expand their reach tenfold? You know, the mathematics would say that it would, right? Because if you take a sample size and it's such a large amount of people are interested in, but a very small people don't like the direction you're going, go in that direction, right? Because you're probably gonna find more people that are interested in that. Star Wars Trilogy, the Sega one too. This is something I don't think we're going to see very soon from Arcade1UP, but definitely that would be really awesome. I was supposed to get mine last Saturday, and I bought a real one, but the guy hasn't delivered it yet. I got to reach out to him and be like, what the heck's going on? And I think there was a super chat earlier. I got to grab that one. Let's see. Console Fanboy says, Risers cheapen the whole look. Ooh, dang, man. It's not a replica with a riser. Make the cabs longer. Same size as 3/4, but without the riser. Riser? I barely knew her. Let's see. Bill says, no riser and no light-up marquee on the Walmart specials. That's right. Ballistic Coffee Boy says, my new Pac-Mania comes with a great riser, and it's just the right size for me at 5'11", I think. Let's see. They're already vertically challenged enough. Here we go. But some people, this is another thing. Some people don't mind the size, right? They don't mind the size of the 3/4 scale, but they would prefer a larger screen. And I think that's a pretty common thing. And we're getting the 19-inch on the XL. I just don't think they're I think they're gonna stay with that. Like if you want a 20-inch screen, they're gonna be like, it's an XL or Pro, right? Other than that, it's going to be a 17-inch screen. It would be cool if they like just kind of mixed it up and said, you know what, Time Crisis is 3/4 scale with a 19-inch. Like we'll just mess it all up. That's why it's more expensive. I don't know. Maybe they'll do that. Let's see. 70% of the arcades are bought by adults. Without risers, ridiculous. Like you're a giant. That's a good point. But there are some people that are adults that buy them, but they have very young kids, and they kind of like that. But you could also say that's why you get the kids a stool. Like, so I was at a pinball arcade today, and I had this thought. There was this father and a daughter that walked in. The daughter was probably like 4 years old, and her height was like really low. And I was like, how is she going to play all these pinball games? They just got a stool. And then she was just playing with the flippers. It was actually really cool. When I was at the pinball place today, there were actually a lot of kids. And there was this one kid that was doing really good. He's probably like 12 or something like that. He was doing the thing where he slaps both sides of the pinball at the same time. But he was doing a great job. It was actually fun to watch. JJ says, if a cab is 3/4 scale, let's see. If a cab is 3/4 scale, having a taller cab that doesn't need a riser doesn't really matter to me. It's pretty obvious when you look at the Arcade1UP that it's not an authentic cab. Okay. That's a good point. Let me show that again. So, but wouldn't you agree though that the idea of the riser built in, it just looks that much better? Now, I think there's going to be some people that are like, they don't want this. And one of the reasons they don't want this is because Arcade1UP is changing the design. So if they buy this next cabinet, they're going to have all these cabinets with riser, and and they're going to have this one that sticks out like a sore thumb that doesn't have a riser. And all their friends come over and they're like, man, that one without a riser is pretty sweet. And you got all these other cabinets with a riser. Does that cheapen your other cabinets? I think some people might think that, you know. But, you know, I don't know. My cabinet's all mixed up. You know, people come over, they don't say anything. They just play whatever. So it's probably just a thought in your head. So I get some cabinets that they got the sticker coin door. I have some that have no coin door. We got some with logos on it. You got some with the faux coin door. It just is what it is. And when people come over, sometimes I'm just like, this one's a little more rare. Like, oh yeah, I got the Rampage. That one's rare. They didn't make very many of them. And people just, you know, they don't care. They just go play it. And for me, I just like collecting and playing these. They're fun, right? And so I don't think, whether we like it or not, I think Arcade1Up is going to do this to save money. I think this is how they increase their profit. When you take a look at the idea of Arcade1Up in 2023 coming out with this design where the riser is built in, to me, this just makes sense because the riser is packaged separately, right? It's almost this entire part that has to be, it's like heavier, it's heavy wood, it's a lot of wood in a very compact space, right? And all they'd have to do with the cabinet on the right is just do a couple more supports that are in between the cabinet, you know? And then probably the marquee would be a little bit wider. The bezel would be a little bit wider. That's if they go with the design where the cabinet is basically the width and depth of the riser, right? So you take this Arcade1Up cabinet and put it next to your Mortal Kombat, you'll find that the width of the base is the same. That's my guess, right? And then, but you go up, everything's a little wider, right? So there's just a little more wood. But I still think that's less wood than overall, because you know, you got all those support beams inside the riser. Anyway, I didn't sit down and do the math and measurement, but that's what I'm thinking, right? Let's see what else we got in the chat here. That Raiden side art without riser is beautiful. No more hashtag, no more riser 2023. Get rid of the blasted risers. No more risers. JR says, I'm not paying $6.99 to $79 for that, for yet another MK cabinet. That's crazy. The riser makes the cab look ugly, according to Ballistic Coffee Boy. Art Division says XL and Pro with 20-inch monitor. Is it 20-inch? I thought it was 19-inch. I mean, that would be cool. Michael Levin says, no! Don't do like iArcade! I guess I'm catching up in the chat where I was talking about iArcade. Tall skinny is what the Dawn of Time calls it. Let me catch up in the chat. Let me get in with you guys. I'm going to have to leave some chats behind. Where did you get that MK2 Pro image, Justin? I made that. I made that. So just to be clear in the chat, I mean, I don't have the Photoshop document with me, but all I did was I took this Mortal Kombat, right? And then I copied it. And then you can kind of see it. Like I added black here, and then I took this and I stretched it all the way to the bottom. And then I took Raiden and then I cut him right here, and then I stretched him. I think I messed up right here. There's like a weird yellow thing right there. Is that part of his arm? I don't know. And then I threw the marquee on top of it. I think you can kind of see where it's kind of messed up there. And then I folded it. I skewed it. Anyway, I'm not trying to deceive anyone. Like I said in the beginning, I made this artwork. The point of it is this gives you an idea of what 2023 would probably look like if and there's other designers that are way better than me that have 3D modeled what this cabinet would look like without a riser. And even Tom, he's done the fabrication, and then this is what the end result looks like. I think this is a no-brainer. You're going to save money. You're going to make people more happy. You're going to make that evolutionary change from 2018 all the way to 2023. You're going to appeal to a larger audience. There's probably a set of people that are not satisfied with the look of the Arcade1Up cabinet. Maybe they've never bought into it because they don't like the look of this 3/4 scale cabinet. But you do a 67-inch cab It's super tall, and it has no riser. It's all built in. It's like an XL, but you can get that price point down to the $499. $499 for the cab because it's a re-release from previous ones, like a Street Fighter at $499, and then $599 if it's brand new, you know, like your NFL Blitz, like your Marvel vs. Capcom 2. So next year, if we see like another title, a brand new title, maybe one or two. I mean, this year, I think we only got like 2 new titles, right? And everything else was just kind of like re-release variations. So to appeal to the audience, they have to like really skew those variations and really hype them up. They really messed up on the TN monitor, but they fixed that for Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and the Yoga Flame. That's what I think they're going to do next year. They got to change something, right? What are they going to change? They already got the shape of the cabinet to look pretty good, right? No one's really complaining about the height and the shape of the Yoga Flame and Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And the only picky parts they have about Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is Marvel vs. Capcom 2, like it not having online, it not having the control panel print that they want, the actual artwork. But the actual shape of it, I think most people are pretty fine with. I mean, there's a little bit of upset with the whole, it's like a Midway design, but, you know, kind of wish it was a Capcom design. But I think most people are like, it is what it is, you know. Hopefully they come out with a Capcom design later, and then they can come out with some more cabs with that shape. We got a super chat that just came in. Let me grab that. Ben Toll, thank you so much for being a member, and thank you so much for the donation. The super chat here says, without a riser, will it be top heavy and wobbly with it being taller? This is a fantastic question, and I think this is the question we should ask Tom, who has in the Facebook groups shown off his modding skills by fabricating this Dragon's Lair. You know, would we, if we got a cabinet like that, would it be top heavy and then you would actually have to attach it to a wall? I mean, obviously people are attaching it to a wall if you have young kids, that would be ideal. But I think some of us have kids that are much older. Mine's 14 years old. There's no risk of you know, a cabinet falling over. Yeah, that's a really good question. I know that with the XL, I have an XL and it's really big, and that one for sure, I'm afraid of it falling over, not because I think it's top heavy, but because if it fell over, it would really hurt me because it's really big. It's very big, but I kind of did a wobble test and it does wobble. But I mean, I think with the XL that I have, if someone came into my house really mad, they could knock it over. I mean, you could do that with any cab, right? If you're angry, you could knock it over. A little kid could probably knock over any Arcade1Up, to be fair, right? If they don't have it attached. Yeah, it's a great question. We'd have to see or ask someone that's done the modification. I know, I remember Retro Ralph actually, he was pretty early in doing this mod. And there wasn't really a good name for it, but you guys in the chat hit one if you remember that. Retro Ralph did an NBA Jam. So he modified the NBA Jam so it's just no riser. It's just solid. But I never... Oh, man. I'm getting people in the chat. Thank you, Kongzarus. I really appreciate that. I should have made this a subscriber-only stream because that... you don't get rated with adult messages if you say only subscribers can message in the chat, and that's usually the cure. Let me change that real quick. Yeah, really appreciate the question. That's a real good one. What do you guys think in the audience, what Ben Toll was talking about? Do you think it would be top-heavy in your opinion? Or do you think it would be just fine? Just, you know, your thoughts on the physics of it all. And let me change this customization real quick. There we go. Subscriber mode. I'll turn that on, save it. Okay, it should be adjusted. Mike Tendo Power says, I'm down either way. Coin doors with LEDs would be nice. I have to catch up in the chat here. So, Formula Fox says, in my opinion, Arcade1Up should go back to universal cabinet designs for the Legacy. Midway cab for the Midway Capcom. Legacies leave control panel side pieces off of the Capcom version. Pac-Man style for the Namco Atari. That's what I wish they would do as well. Like, if you're going to make the cabinets distinct for every manufacturer, for every publisher, that would be more ideal. right? So you get a very specific design for Midway, maybe a separate one for Capcom. I mean, this is the challenge that Arcade1up has. I think we've been saying this since the beginning. Like, when they first came out with it, every single cab had exactly the same design, right? And we basically immediately said, nope, nope, make it look like the original. Basically, we want 3/4 scale replicas or XL replicas. Like, that's pretty much what everyone wants. And since we don't have that, we're basically fine with it. Because the alternative is not have the products that Arcade1up comes out with. So we're just kind of happy with what we get. And then some other people, and I want to make this very clear, not to put down any of the other companies, they're also great. iArcade offers a lot. The AtGames Legends Ultimate offers a lot. The Neo Geo, I wish Unico would come out with more products. It seems like they were just kind of a one-hit wonder, if you will. Hopefully they'll even come out with those options for the screen. I want them all to succeed, right? But when it comes to Arcade1up, where they go for this very specific cab that has those publisher games on it, that's what they go after. That's their target market, is people that want multiple cabinets. But what those people like me that want that, I wish the shape of the cabinet was unique. And that's why, although I have not bought it, I am interested in the Tron and the Terminator 2 because it gives me that, right? It does look more unique. I'm just waiting for those prices to come way down because I wasn't going to spend like $700. I thought about it, but I'm like, nah, I'm not going to spend $700 on Tron. I think eventually those will come down to about $199, or I may pull the trigger at $299. Let's see. Thank you so much, Gunner, for the $5. To those of you who don't know, that have been in the chat for a while, I want to let you know that I'm doing when the Pro does come out, I think it's going to be about $1,000. This is what the Street Fighter 2 Pro will probably look like. This is based on a picture that I received from a manufacturer, and there's 2 or 3 confirmations that I have, like literally different companies have sent me pictures of what the manufacturing process looks like, and it includes a Pro design of Street Fighter. So I have 2 sources that have given me a picture of what it looks like, and this is one of them that I mocked up, but it's based on the original cabinet. If you subscribe to my channel, and then there's a link in the description where you can put in your email address, and by doing that, you enter to win. So when that cabinet does come out, someone will win a Pro cabinet, and that is not sponsored by Arcade1up. It's sponsored by the donations like this. The donations that people super chat, I'm giving back, right? That's what I'm doing. Let's see. Mike Game Killer MGK says, hey, the Arcade Brothers are here. Dan and Mike. What's going on, guys? Let's see. 1UP has crappy designers. They cannot replicate a design that is 40 years old. Numbskull and New Wave Toys did it right from the beginning. I'm telling you, it's so true. Like, why can't Arcade1up? This is so many times we tell them, like, why can't you just be like the 3/4 scale version of Numbskull and New Wave Toys? And I think their answer is people are still buying it. But I would love to see how many sales they would have if they just did like a really good replica. Because I think a really good replica would do really, really well. You know? Give us like a Pac-Man replica. I think maybe they're scared to do it because once they do a replica, maybe their margins wouldn't be very good with a replica. They can't scale that to all the different titles that they want to do. If they did a replica, it would mean $100,000 in design. That's the number I've heard for the mold of an Arcade1up cabinet that's unique, to pay a company to design the shapes and all the data that you have to give to the manufacturer to be able to reproduce that design. And so they want to sell many cabinets of that design so they can get the money back for the cost investment of those molds, if you will. But imagine if they had to do that for every single cabinet. But that's the formula, evidently, that New Wave Toys does, but maybe it's not expensive at that scale. That's weird. Maybe there's a lot that goes into it because different shape cabinets require also flat packing technology. Like, you have to spend a lot of money to pay someone to be like, this is how it's going to be boxed up. And maybe with New Waves, you know, it's a small little box and the shipping optimization is not a big deal. Yeah, it's not a big deal. So I want to tell you guys about a really awesome day that I had today. And if you have some chats about your thoughts on this matter, we'll come back to it in just a second. I'll let the chat fill up with your comments about 2023 predictions. Maybe we switch the last 15 minutes of this podcast to games that you want to see. And I'll put a little chat in here. Games you want to see in 2023. That'll be my marker. I'm going to read comments below that. But I want to tell you real quick about some really cool things that happened today. I'm super excited about it. And maybe over the course of this podcast, you'll see more and more information. And stick around because I have a question. I have a question for you guys. I'm going to make another poll. Now, this is me taking advantage of this community so that you can answer a personal question for me. It's basically, what should I get? What should I get? And it's, I'm going to write it down real quick. And okay. So I told my wife I was going to do this and be like, we'll see what the audience says and I'll get back to you on it. So today I went to a place called, so every week or so, every other week maybe, I go to a place called Operating Pinball. So in Des Moines, there's this pinball place called like Operating Pinball. And it has all these pinball machines. I'll show you a clip of it real quick. So here it is. This is the pinball machines that they have at it. And at the very end, they have Guns N' Roses, which I hadn't played before. So they have Mando here, they have Rush, and on the other side they have a ton of. They have Godzilla, they have what else is there? Jurassic Park. They have Beatles. They get all these different ones, and I'm not really a big fan of Guns N' Roses. Like, I like their songs, but I don't think I would buy a Guns N' Roses. But here is, let me see if I can turn down the volume here. Here is the Guns N' Roses. It is sick, man. Hit one in the chat if you have seen the Guns N' Roses cabinet. I'm sorry, pinball table. I'm used to saying arcade cabinet. So the pinball table, Guns N' Roses. Hit one in the chat if you have played this thing. Now, if this was a different band, if this was like System of a Down or something like that, maybe I would get it. Pitbull in the chat saying he just played it. Now, I don't think I could get Guns N' Roses, but it's got a gigantic screen on it. The animation on the screen reminds me of like Guitar Hero or something. And then if you go down to it, dude, there's a drum set. There's Slash's hat. There's a Gibson Les Paul guitar headstock. There's drumsticks on the side. There's just so many really cool things about this playfield, right? It's a pretty expensive machine. I want to say it's $11,000 for this pinball machine. But the pinball dealer, I had a chat with them, and they have a ton of them in stock. This is not something I'm going to end up buying, but check this out. It is just a fantastic looking thing. You can kind of see some reflection on there. I think this is in between their cleaning. But you can see the details of this machine. It is just spectacular. Look at the drumstick, right? And I want to know, like, are those drumsticks like real drumsticks that the drummer from Def Leppard, almost said Def Leppard, yeah. No, Guns N' Roses would play. But it was so cool when you get the ball back there. It's like playing the drums. You hear boop-a-tap, boop-a-tap, boop-a-tat, as the ball's kicking around against the bumpers there. And then the hi-hats. It's really, really cool system. So if you're at a pinball place, look for Guns N' Roses. It is really fun to play, especially if you're into music. You know, you're a big fan of like, you know, bands and stuff like that. Pitbull, I bet you absolutely love it because Pitbull is really into these pinball machines. And, you know, he's a musician. He was a lead singer of a band in the 90s. He toured with all these rock bands. So he said he just put a video up today. So go subscribe to Pitbull on Pinball and Arcade. He said he put up a video today on a ton of pins. So click on Pitbull in the chat. He has his own channel, or search for it. He's starting to make tons of content on it. He's an arcade owner, and he owns some pinball, and he loves pinball. And if you have any questions about, I'm going to tell the entire audience, if you have any questions about pinball machines, he's the guy to ask. And I'm going to be asking Pitbull a ton of questions. So let me tell you the story about one of the pinball machines I may buy. And it's all because I went to the office on a Sunday and they ended up being there. So they are the Stern official distributors for Stern in the Des Moines area. And let me show you this video real quick of what their hauling truck looks like, right? Their van. This is a Mercedes van with just this beautiful wrap. I went in and ended up talking to the owner, was there, and I was telling, I'm a big fan of pinball. I don't own one yet, but I have this podcast every week. Maybe I could interview. And they were just super, and I was like, maybe I can come in and like film at some of your places. And she starts telling me we have a warehouse over here. This is where our office is. And then they own a pinball machine. So all the pinball arcades, whenever they get new ones in, they bring it there. And what's really cool is they said when the new, 007 comes, I can get in contact with them and do the unboxing with them right here on this channel. I'll go to that location. We'll get a filming of the unboxing. Pretty excited about that. And we can check out that game. They were super sweet. And some of the pinball machines that they had right there on their showroom are one of the pinball machines that I'm actually looking for. They had it, and they gave me the price of now, those in the chat, I bet you're all like, no, don't do it, Justin, don't do it. But keep in mind, this is actually a pinball machine that I've been looking for. And I've seen a couple available on different Facebook Marketplace for about $6,000. I saw one on eBay for about $4,000, and their unit is actually it's basically mint condition. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen and show you what I may be picking up, but I want to get what you guys think, whether I should do it. Now, there's a couple things to it, so don't answer just yet. I'm gonna have a poll. I want to get you guys' thought on it. So it is the Star Wars Episode 1 pinball machine. Okay, so this is made by Williams, and it came out in 1999-2000. This is part of Williams 2000. Now, they came out with two cabs, right? Or two pinball machines that look like this design. Does anyone else know what the other one is? It's Revenge of Mars, is that right? Revenge from Mars, I think it's called. And so, now, some people really love the Star Wars Episode 1. Some people really like the Revenge. Now, what you're seeing right here is not the price that I was offered. I was not offered that price. The price that they offered me, now this is an Episode 1 machine that they bought and originally put in their pinball arcade, right? And when they became a Stern dealer, they were no longer like into the retro stuff, so they started putting all their Stern stuff inside there. And it's almost become like their showroom, right? So if anyone wants to sample any of the arcades that, or any of the pinball machines that they sell, they just say, go to our arcade, where they have all these pinball machines. So that has become their showroom. So they took out two pinball machines that were kind of more retro. And this has sat in their showroom for years, but no one plays it. It's just a showcase. When people would come into their office, you would see a sample of pinball machines. So they said, with delivery. Now, here's the question. Do you guys think this is a good price? I guess you've kind of seen the price here, so you're probably going to use that as an anchor. $3,500. $3,500 for what they're calling a mint, near mint. I saw it, looked pretty good. I didn't turn it on yet, but I'd like to go back. $3,500 for this machine. Now you're probably thinking, don't get that one. Get the Revenge from Mars. So what do you guys think? Do you think the Revenge from Mars is better? That's what I want to know. Because here's the deal. They have that one too. Same price, same condition. And now I'm like, do I call them up and say, how much for both? Because this deal, yeah, okay, do it or I will. I just gave you all the information for you to like, see. I'd buy that Star Wars table in a heartbeat. Yeah, so let me get the vote going on in the chat here. I'll add, ask the community, what should I get? I just put the poll out there. Star Wars Episode 1, Revenge from Mars, or both. Now, the Revenge from Mars I've played recently. When we went to Galloping Ghost, I played it there. Hell no, Episode 1 is the best. Here's the thing. I love Star Wars, though. Like, if I'm going to get it, I'm probably going to get the Star Wars one. And the thing is, when I grew up, and I was about 18, 19 years old when I first saw the first Star Wars Episode 1, there's a lot of nostalgia for me. I met Jack Osborne at Ozfest, and we talked about Episode 1 before it came out. Serge from freaking System of a Down was there, and we talked to him about Episode 1. There's all these, like, never have I ever had an opportunity to ever meet celebrities, but this just, like, one time. And I was backstage eating lunch with all of these musicians that were like, you know, Primus was there, System of a Down was there, Slipknot was there, Jack Osborne was there, he's a little kid. We're all talking about Episode 1, and then Jar Jar came out, and I hated it. But then I had a daughter, and she's like 5 years old. I started showing her Episode 1. I showed her all the other movies first, and I'm sure that she was going to hate Jar Jar, because I hated Jar Jar. She loved Jar Jar. My nephew, who, when Episode 1 came out, was also, he was like very young when Episode 1 came out, maybe like 5 years old, I want to say. Jar Jar, he loves the Episode 1, 2, and 3. So I had this connection there. And then I read this tweet from the guy that did the voice for Jar Jar. And he said because there was so much backlash for Jar Jar, he almost killed himself. It was that bad. He, with George Lucas, created that character. And when people hated on Jar Jar, people were hating on him, saying he was horrible. And he almost jumped off the Brooklyn Bridge, I think it was. But as he was about to take a step off, a gust of wind came, and he caught himself. And he thought, well, I must not want to kill myself, because if I did, I just would have let myself fall. So he decided to get off the bridge. He did not kill himself. And some 18, 20 years later, his son, who wouldn't be born if he would have killed himself, he takes him back to the Brooklyn Bridge and tweets this tweet. And this is the place where I almost took my life, but I didn't. And for that, I'm thankful. Now I have a child, and I love my life. And it changed my thought about Jar Jar. And I watched it again through the lens, through the eyes of my child and my nephew. And actually, yeah, sure, he's annoying, but I was an adult. Jar Jar was made for kids. And now I appreciate Jar Jar. And so, owning an Episode 1 pinball machine, even with Jar Jar on it, I don't have any of that negativity towards Jar Jar anymore. So for me, it's like, I want to own it. Even though some people probably wouldn't buy that machine because of Jar Jar. And thinks Jar Jar is a troll. Jar Jar is a Sith. Have you heard that theory? Thank you so much for the donation, $3.69. I think you made another super chat earlier. I'm sorry I missed it. I'm just remembering I got on a roll here. $2.27. Like, comment, and subscribe, mother flowers. Let's see. Oh my God. I just did an overview of that Revenge from Mars. Man, so here's the thing. Let's see. Let's end the poll and see what you guys think. It's 42% think I should get Episode 1, 27% say I should get Revenge from Mars, and 30% say I should get both. It's all over the place. But it makes me think. It makes me, I mean, the highest number, we got 70 people that voted. They say Star Wars Episode 1, 42%. That's the highest one. It's so funny because I've been looking for this, and I was like, all the ones that I found were more expensive and needed work. And the owner, I think her name was Leslie, is great. So I think her husband is Greg, and I think he's a doctor, if I remember reading on the website correctly. But when I was there, it's like, it's her business, right? And she knows her stuff. When I'm talking to her about pinball, I just started quizzing her, like, when do you think you're going to get the Jurassic Parks? What about the Godzilla? And she goes, all this backstory is freaking awesome. Maybe I can get her to come on the stream sometime. Maybe we could do an interview or something like that. What it's like to be a Stern distributor in Des Moines, Iowa. What are your sales like? What's popular? That would be really cool. I definitely want to get to know her better. Have a really, hopefully through this purchase, I'll get an opportunity to talk with her and let me know if there's any other good deals. She said all of the used stuff, it doesn't even seem like they market their stuff. Anyway, no one in the chat steal my pinball machine because I got dibs on it, right? I called dibs on it. Anyway, I don't know if I'm going to do it yet. It is a lot of money. And I got to think about it. I talked to my wife about it, but I did tell her up front, like, I had a great conversation with her, and she has the pinball machine in her showroom, the exact one I'm looking for. And it's the one my daughter really loves to play. It's kind of a weird pinball machine because it's like kind of a video game, but kind of a pinball machine as well. And there's a lot of people, I watched some videos on it that kind of broke it down, and some people say they disliked it because the video game part of it kind of distracted and it was better integrated on the Revenge from Mars. But I remember playing it. They have it at this old school pinball and arcade in Grimes, Iowa, and I've played it several times, and it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. And maybe that would be my first pinball machine. Like my first real pinball machine has to be some weird vintage hybrid. And then I'll pick up a new one later. Great. I'm probably going to be multiple pinball owner. I told Kong I wasn't going to buy multiple pinballs, and here I am. And I knew, I avoided going to see that distributor. I avoided seeing that distributor because I knew the moment I walk into that office, they would have something I absolutely want. And they did. And for months, I've been avoiding because I'm like, there's a Stern distributor in my town that owns an arcade. And I could go talk to them, and they could probably give me a good deal because I'm local. A lot of their customers, they probably ship across the Midwest. And it's true. When I talked to her, she's like, do you live in the metro area? I'm like, yeah, I live in Johnston. She's like, yeah, we wouldn't charge you anything extra for any shipping. We would just do a door delivery. And I was like, do you think you'd help it get into the house? She goes, I'll talk to my husband, Greg, and we can work something out. Maybe. She's like, do I have to go downstairs? I'm like, no, it's just into my office. Gonna have some pinball machines in my office. She goes, we can probably make it work. It's like everything aligned. It's like everything worked out. Anyway, thank you guys so much for hanging out for this podcast. I hope you appreciated it. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and don't forget to hit that link. Anyone who's ever subscribed to my channel in the past, you're welcome to click on it. This is not for new subscribers. This is for all subscribers, whether you've subscribed for me for 5 minutes or 3 years. Click that link so you can enter in that contest to win a pro cabinet. Basically, I'm giving away $1,000 is what I'm doing. I'm giving back $1,000 to my subscribers, to one lucky owner. That's basically how it works. Assuming they're $1,000, but that's the plan. Anyway, thank you so much. Don't forget to watch all the other content creators that make content on retro gaming. Try to keep retro gaming alive. No matter how you want to play it, the way you want to play it is great, as long as it's keeping retro gaming alive. We'll see you guys in the next video. Take care. Have a good week.